Hare Krishna. So we will start our discussion on the concluding verses of first chapter. So last time we finished at verse 20, and they were summarizing about the signs of victory and defeat. Victory on the side of the Pandavas and defeat on the side of the Kauravas. Now the remaining chapter is devoted to Arjun speaking about his inner turmoil. So we'll do the Mangalacharan and start the discussion. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Okay, so verse 21 and 22. Arjun Vacha Senayorubayor Madhye Ratham Sthapayami Chuta Yavadeta Niriksham Yodukaman Avastitan Kairmaya Sahayodhavyam Asmin Rana Samundyame. Arjun said, O infallible one, please draw my chariot between the two armies so that I may see those present here who desire to fight and with whom I must contend in this great trial of arms. So this is the first time in the Bhagavad-gita that Arjun speaks. That's why it said Arjuna Vacha. And beginning from this verse, we will see a set of verses that manifest the indecisiveness of Arjun. This is also the first time in Bhagavad-gita that Krishna is being directly addressed. So previously he was named. So in the verses 14 and 15, when the blowing of the conches was happening, he was called Madhava and Rishikesha. Now he is being directly addressed by Arjun as Achyuta. So the word Achyuta means infallible. And typically it means one who is infallible, means never defeated, who is always able to fulfill his desires, is always correct, always represents the truth. In this context, the acharyas say that infallible has an interesting meaning. The word Achyuta, it is one who never fails in his affection to his devotees. So Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And how do we see him first approaching or first appearing in the Gita? As a servant. Right? So Arjuna is telling Krishna, hey you, please go and draw my chariot between the two armies. Actually, the role of a chariot driver was considered to be very low down in the social strata. And one of the reasons was that the way that the warriors they control the chariot by placing their feet on the backs of the chariot drivers. So it's like in nowadays cars, you have the feet and there you have the accelerator, brake. So at that time it was a little different, that the warriors would have their feet on the back of the chariot driver, and by pressing their feet in different ways, they would signal to the chariot driver, turn right, turn left, go fast, go slow. And the relationship between the warrior and the chariot driver is very intimate, because ultimately the chariot driver controlled the motion of the chariot, which controlled really the life of the warrior. So we see here that the Lord himself is appearing in such a menial position, that the Lord whose lotus feet are worshipped by great personalities like Lord Shiva, he is appearing in a position where he is accepting the feet of his own devotee on his back. Right? And that's the transcendental competition between the Lord and his devotees. The devotees try to serve the Lord and make him happy, and the Lord reciprocates by trying to serve the devotees and make them happy. Now we see also over here the beginning of doubts in the mind of Arjuna. Because the conch shells have been already blown, and it's time for battle. This is not the time for nirikshan. Nirikshan means examination. Because all this was known. The generals had a very elaborate spy system, and they knew very well who their enemies are, which the warriors they have to contend with, what is the formation of the army. All this is already known to Arjun. Yet we see that he is now asking Krishna to draw his chariot between the two armies and place them in between. So he is developing misgivings about his intention for battle, and we will see that this actually develops more so later on. Okay, so verse 23. Yotsamanam avakshayam yetatra samagataha dhartarashtrasya durbuddhya yuddhapriya chikeshavaha. Let me see those who have come here to fight, wishing to please the evil-minded son of Dhritarashtra. So, there is a little bit of an interplay of unspoken words over here, and acharyas interpolated. I mean, it's one of those things that one can question, that how do the acharyas know what are the unspoken words? And the understanding is they know because they're elevated. They're closer to Krishna. So in the previous verse, when Arjun said that take my chariot and put it between the two armies, then Krishna might say, what is the need for that? Now is the time to fight, not to do all this inspection. And in response to that unspoken question, implicit question, Arjun says this verse that no, I need to be taken there to see who have come here to fight. Right? So he characterizes the Kauravas as or specifically speaking about Duryodhana over here. So he says that who have come here to please the evil-minded son of Dhritarashtra. So he's talking about Duryodhana, and he calls him evil-minded because in the past he had done many such activities. He had tried to burn the Pandavas in the Lakshagriha. He had tried to poison Bhima. He had tried to trick Durvasha Muni into cursing the Pandavas. And then he had cheated in the Dyuta Krida, in the gambling. He had tried to disrobe Draupadi. So many activities that he had done that were outright evil. So Dhritarashtra, he calls them. So he is justified to. He's justified in calling Duryodhana evil-minded, and then he also extends that to the other people. So he says that who all have come wishing to please the evil-minded son of Dhritarashtra. Right? So he's saying that sympathy to evil is also evil. And this is one of the themes in the scriptures in Bhagavad-gita, that there are no neutral positions, so to speak. That you are either with or without. So personalities like Bhishma and Drona, they were fighting with Duryodhana because they had allegiance to the throne of Hastinapur, but by association with all the evil activities done by Duryodhana, they were also contaminated. Right? So Arjun, he is justifying the need of his to examine the army by saying that I need to see who all have come, who are all those evil people who have come to fight with this evil Duryodhana. Okay, so we do verse 24 now. Sanjay vacha eva mukta rishikesho gudakeshan bharata senayor ubayor madhye sthapayitva rathotamam. Sanjay said, O descendant of Bharat, having thus been addressed by Arjun, Lord Krishna drew up the fine chariot in the midst of the armies of both parties. So, in the previous verse, Arjun had asked Krishna to pull up the chariot in the midst of the armies, and Dhritarashtra then asked Sanjay, what happened then? So now Sanjay Vacha. Sanjay says that now Krishna, following the orders of Arjun, actually pulls up the chariot in the midst of both the parties. So in this verse, Krishna is referred to as Rishikesh. Now Rishikesh means that one who is the controller of senses. Right. So two nuances to the name over here. One is, as Rishikesh, the lord of the senses, Krishna knew the inner turmoil going on in the senses of Arjun. And in a way, Krishna is going to encourage that, because it will precipitate the speaking of the Bhagavad-gita. Another meaning of Rishikesh here is that when Krishna is the Supreme Lord, in that mood, he is the controller of everyone's senses. But in the Bhakt Vatsalya mood, in the mood of service to his devotees, he allows his devotees to control his senses. Because Krishna is doing as per the order of Arjun. So this is Bhakt Vatsalya Rishikesh, that Krishna is allowing his senses to be controlled by his devotees. And Arjun is addressed over here as Gudakesh. So Gudakesh means that one, literally it means one who does not sleep. And Arjun had this name because he was so committed to practicing archery that he would not even sleep at night. So in Mahabharata, the story goes that once Bhima was eating, and at night time, and because of the wind, the candle blew off. And when the candle blew off, then Arjun noticed that Bhima didn't stop eating. He just continued to eat. So then Arjun asked him that, it's dark over here, and you can't see the food, you can't see your mouth, how are you eating? And then Bhima said, just practice, my friend. So for Arjun it was an aha moment. And he said, well, if by practice one can do that, then why should I waste my night time sleeping? So then at night time he would start also practicing. And once Dronacharya saw him do that, and then so the heart of a teacher opens to a dedicated pupil. So then Dronacharya at that time was very pleased to see Arjun late at night practicing. And that time Dronacharya promised him that I will reveal to you all the intricacies of warfare, which he actually does. Dronacharya actually teaches Arjun a lot more than he teaches his own son Ashwatthama, because Arjun was so qualified. Vishwanath Chakravarti gives another interpretation of Gudakesh. If you break the word, and we won't go through that, but Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, he breaks the words, and he says that Gudakesh actually refers to one who brings under control. Arjun, by his love, by his prema, he brings Krishna under his control. And seeing this loving interaction between Arjun and Krishna, great personalities like Lord Vishnu and Brahma and Shiva, they experience indescribable joy. And so this is the mood of devotees, that when they see the loving interaction between another devotee and the Lord, they feel even happier. Right? So Gudakesh is a glorification of Arjun, that one who gives happiness to Vishnu and Brahma and Shiva by demonstrating the sweetness of Krishna's devotion. Okay, so we'll move on to the next verse now. Okay, verse 25. Bhishma Drona Pramukhata Sarvesham cha Mahikshatam Uvacha Partha Pashyatan Samvetan Kuruniti. In the presence of Bhishma, Drona, and all the other chieftains of the world, the Lord said, "Just behold, Partha, all the Kurus assembled here." So this is a key turning point verse over here, because we see that the latent misgivings in Arjun are now going to fructify. Right? So when Arjun asked Krishna to take his chariot, Senayor Ubhayor, that in the middle of the two armies, Krishna could have taken it anywhere. The armies were broadside facing one another. Krishna could have taken and placed the chariot in front of Duryodhana. Right? And Arjun had a lot of negativity towards Duryodhana. Right? He keeps addressing him as evil-minded. So seeing Duryodhana, he would have been more determined to fight. Or he could have taken it in front of Dushasan. Dushasan was widely disliked because of his various nefarious activities, and Arjun would have been even more motivated. But Krishna does not do that. What does he do? Bhishma Drona Pramukhata. That he takes the chariot and places it in front of Bhishma and Drona. These are the two people that Arjun had the most affection for. Drona was the guru of Arjun, and Bhishma was the grandfather. So he had an enormous amount of respect for Drona and enormous amount of affection for Bhishma. Bhishma had been continuously protecting the Pandavas against all the schemings of the Kauravas. And Drona had opened his heart to instruct Arjun and the Pandavas in the art of warfare. So Krishna deliberately takes Arjun in front of these two people, saying that now you have to contend with killing them. They are standing in the opposite side of the army. They are standing on their chariots, they are bearing weapons. When the battle starts, they will be throwing weapons at you. You will have to counter and kill them. So this is the mood of Krishna in taking control of his devotees for the welfare of others. If Arjun had not fallen into dilemma, then the Bhagavad-gita would not have been spoken. So Krishna is accelerating that process. Right? So Krishna addresses Arjun over here as Partha, and this is in connection with Arjun's lineage. That Arjun is the son of Kunti Devi, and another name of Kunti Devi is Pratha. So Krishna and Arjun are actually related through their cousins, because Kunti Devi's brother Vasudev is the father of Krishna. Right? So Krishna is reminding Arjun of his exalted lineage at the same time. Right? So we are seeing that how he is churning the emotions in Arjun. He's saying you have to kill Bhim and Drona, but you're Partha. You belong to this exalted lineage of Kurus, who have never turned back from a battle. And he also calls him Partha to show his own connection, saying that I'm the Lord, but I'm standing over here under you as your charioteer because of our affection to one another. Right. So in the next verse, Sanjay will describe the family members that Arjun sees in the opposing army. Verse 26. Tatra pashyat sthitan partha pitran natha pitamaha acharyan matulan bratran putran pautran sakhims tatha swasuran surdascheva senayorubayorapi. There Arjun could see within the midst of the armies of both parties his fathers, grandfathers, teachers, maternal uncles, brothers, sons, grandsons, friends, and also his fathers-in-law and well-wishers. So, what Arjun saw, Senayor Ubhayorapi, standing between the two armies, facing the opposing armies, is different grades of his relatives. And we see that it is used in plural for fathers. Now, Arjun's own father, Pandu, had already died, but in the Vedic system, the understanding was that those who had the same stature were also considered father, which is why at the beginning of the first chapter, when Dhritarashtra says, Mamaka Pandavaschaiva, when he's making this distinction between mines and the sons of Pandavas, it's criticized because he has this position of being the father to the Pandavas also. And Arjuna is seeing with that perspective. He is seeing elders who are fathers like Bhurishvara. He is seeing grandfathers like Bhishma and Somdat. He is seeing teachers like Drona and Kripa. Then Matulan. He is seeing maternal uncles like Shalya and Shakuni. He is seeing brothers like Duryodhan and Dushasan. Then he is seeing sons like the sons of the Kauravas, like Lakshman. He is seeing grandsons like the sons of Lakshman. And then he is seeing his friends also. Friends like Ashwathama and Jayadratha. And then his well-wishers like Kritavarma and Bhagadat. So, the description indicates that he looked around. So, he looked at the opposing army and he looked at his own army. Right? So, he was reviewing both the armies, Senayor Ubhayorapi, because he was well aware that the battle would cost the lives of both the armies. It's not that if the Pandavas, even if they came victorious, they would have no fatalities. Right? We had already seen the Kauravas' army was much larger and powerful warriors. So Arjun was aware that this battle will result in the death of almost everyone, which is what factually happened. Right? So he's looking at everyone to see that I will be the cause, if I fight in this battle, of the death of people who are like my fathers and grandfathers and uncles and sons and friends. Okay, so let's go to the next verse. Verse 27. Tan samiksha sakonteya sarvan bandhunavasthitan kripiya pareya vishito vishidanidam abravit. When the son of Kunti, Arjun, saw all these different grades of friends and relatives, he became overwhelmed with compassion and spoke thus. So this is the beginning of Arjun's bewilderment. Like as an eternal associate of the Lord and a pure devotee, Arjun can never be really bewildered. But the Lord, in order to deliver the conditioned souls for our benefit, He instructs through His associates. And Prabhupada gives the example of how an expert mother-in-law will instruct the daughter-in-law to the daughter. Because the relationship between the mother-in-law and daughter-in-law is always weak. So if the mother-in-law chastises the daughter-in-law, it creates resentment. But what the mother-in-law will do is that she will turn and if the daughter-in-law has made some mistake, so let's assume she cooked something and put too much salt in it. Now the mother-in-law will not chastise the daughter-in-law. She will turn to the daughter and chastise her, saying that you have to understand to put the right amount of salt, you have spoiled the taste, etc. Now the daughter-in-law is hearing when the daughter is being chastised. The relationship between the mother and the daughter is strong. So when the daughter is being chastised, it does not impinge on the relationship because it's naturally a very strong relationship. But through that chastisement, now the daughter-in-law understands that she made a mistake. But it's also a safe area in the sense that she is not directly being chastised. So Krishna uses the same technique, that when he's chastising Arjun, when he's instructing Arjun, Arjun doesn't need any of that. But through that chastisement and instructions, we have a weaker relationship with Krishna compared to his pure devotees, at least in a conditioned state. So when we listen to that chastisement and the instructions, we get benefit from it. So we see now that Arjun is being progressively becoming more and more bewildered. Right? So Krishna over here, he addresses Arjun as Kaunteya, as the son of Kunti. Once again, so previously he said Partha as the son of Pritha. So another name for Kunti Devi is Pritha. So once again, he is talking about the so this is Sanjay. Sanjay is talking about the exalted lineage of Arjun. So the verse says that Arjun became overwhelmed with compassion and spoke thus. So one of the qualities of a devotee is compassion. So the compassion of the devotee is that everybody near and dear to them is protected, and it actually extends to the whole universe, to friends and enemies also. Right? So we see that quality manifesting in Arjun, this quality of compassion. Okay, so we'll go to the next verse. Okay, so reading from verse 28, Arjun vacha Drishtva swajanam Krishna yuyutsam samupasthitam siddhanti mam agatrane mukam cha parishushyati. Arjun said, "My dear Krishna, seeing my friends and relatives present before me in such a fighting spirit, I feel the limbs of my body quivering and my mouth drying up." So this verse, now it talks about the manifest symptoms of indecisiveness, or at least at this stage, lamentation. Right? So Arjun is saying that my limbs such as my hand and feet are weakening and my mouth is completely dry. Parishushati is completely dry over here. So Prabhupada notes that such symptoms in Arjun were not due to weakness but to his soft-heartedness, a characteristic of a pure devotee of the Lord. Right? So interestingly, later on, this quality of compassion is going to be condemned by Krishna. And then one will wonder that why is Prabhupada glorifying this quality and gets condemned. Prabhupada himself condemns the quality. And the reason is that the quality of compassion per se is glorious. That the whole Vedas mandate that one should be compassionate to others, jivadaya, being helpful, being grateful to others, being compassionate to others. And that quality is being glorified. It's actually a spiritual quality. What is being condemned over here is the application of that quality. So a father who is compassionate to the tantrums of the son and allows the son to eat unlimited amount of candies, it's misplaced compassion. The son becomes sick and gets an upset stomach, and the father will say, well, I'm being compassionate to the son. Right? So the real compassion would be to stop the son from eating too much candy so that it does not fall sick. So similarly, while the quality of compassion is glorious, the application of that quality is also important. Right? In the Bhagavatam we see that when Narsingadev kills Hiranyakashipu, then Prahlad Maharaj actually goes and thanks him. Like, thank you for killing my father. Now, Prahlad Maharaj is an exalted devotee. Does not mean that he lacks the quality of compassion, but he is manifesting it correctly. Because when Hiranyakashipu was killed by Narsingadev, he was liberated. And that is the perfection of the jiva. So that is the real quality of compassion. So Prabhupada, in one of the lectures, he says that devotees will excuse, but Krishna will not excuse. Right? So, in expanding on this quality of compassion, Prabhupada says that sometimes people insult devotees, or one devotee may insult another devotee or harm another devotee, and because devotees by nature are compassionate, they overlook it. But Prabhupada says one should be very careful of Vaishnava Aparadha, because devotees will excuse, but Krishna will not excuse. Therefore, be very careful not to insult a devotee. So beginning with the verse 28, Arjun will give various reasons for not fighting, and I have summarized them by verses. So verses 28 to 30, he gives compassion as the reason. 31 to 36, enjoyment. He says that if everybody dies, who will I enjoy with? 37 to 42, Varnasankar, destruction of family. He says that this will result in the destruction of family and future generations. 43 to 45, he talks about the fear of sinful reactions. That I'll be killing my guru, my personalities like my father and grandfather, so I'll be inflicted by sinful reactions. And the last quality, which actually appears in the second chapter, from verse 4 to 9, is indecisiveness. That despite giving all these reasons, Arjun is not sure that he is making the right decision. Okay, moving on to the next verse. Okay, verse 29. Vepatuscha sharira me romaharshascha jayate gandivam sramshate hastat tvakcheva paridyate. My whole body is trembling. My hair is standing on end. My bow Gandiv is slipping from my hand, and my skin is burning. So, Arjun is continuing to describe the manifest symptoms of his inner turmoil. Body is trembling, romaharshas, hair standing, vepatu, there is shivering in the body. Gandiv is the name of Arjun's bow, and he's saying my bow is slipping from my hand. So Prabhupada in the purport says there are two kinds of trembling of the body, two kinds of standings of the hair on end. So Vepatus and Romaharshas. So Prabhupada explains one kind of happens in spiritual ecstasy. So there are also physical symptoms of spiritual ecstasy. And one of them is the hair stands on an end in ecstasy, the body shivers. And these are also symptoms of great fear under material conditions. Right? So Arjun's symptoms in this are out of material fear, uncertainty, loss of life, the correctness of his actions. Right? And then Prabhupada says all these are due to a material conception of life. So we note here that in verse 28, Prabhupada was glorifying Arjun's compassion, and this was the previous verse, and this verse he's criticizing it, right? And as I explained, the reason was there the quality of compassion was being glorified. Here, the criticism is the incorrect application of that quality, right? So, for example, Srila Prabhupada would say that women always need protection, right? And he would also say that ISKCON is successful because of my women disciples. And one may think that they are contrary statements, but they are actually not. Right? The first statement conveys the material situation, that women can be physically overpowered or exploited, so they need protection. And the second quality, the second statement is the spiritual strength of the women, of how they were instrumental in spreading Krishna's word. Right. So we see the same quality being noted differently based on what the context is. And the reason I'm speaking it is because context is very important in reading scriptures, Bhagavad-gita. The biggest disservice that one does to the word of the Lord in Gita or the Vedas is to quote it out of context. And when they quote it out of context, then they establish artificial context of themselves to justify their own points. They'll take a statement that, like for instance, towards the end of the Gita, Krishna makes this point. After saying that, giving the entire instruction, Krishna tells Arjuna that now you do whatever you please. Right? And essentially Krishna is giving Arjuna the choice to make his own decision. And there are people who will simply take that out of context and say, well, in Gita, Krishna says, you do whatever you please. So I'm following Krishna's instructions and doing whatever I please. Right? So this is a more egregious example of taking words out of context and using them to your own advantage. Okay, so let's move on to verse 30 now. न च शक्नोम्यवस्थातुं ब्रह्मतीव च मे मनः निमित्तानि च पश्यामि विप्रतानि केशव. I am now unable to stand here any longer. I am forgetting myself and my mind is reeling. I see only causes of misfortune. O Krishna, killer of the Keshi demon. So Arjuna is continuing to elaborate on the manifest symptoms of his inner turmoil. I'm not able to stand, forgetting myself, which means he's not able to distinguish between what is right and wrong. Mind is reeling. And one of the key phrases he says over here is Nimitani cha pashyami vipratani keshava. Right? So Nimitani vipratani means that an action will cause. So Nimitani means cause, and Vipratani means the opposite. So essentially what it means is that I'm trying to go in to do something, but the result is going to be opposite. Nimitani Vipratani. Right? And that actually is the succinct description of the material world. Nimitani Vipratani. That any actions that we do based on a material conception will always yield opposite to the desired result. Right? We work hard thinking we'll get money and we'll be happy, but we don't get happiness. Right? We enter into relationships, think they'll be satisfying, but they will not be. Why? Because they're material in nature. That is the nature of the material world. Like in electronics, there is a component called an inverter. And whatever you give it, the signal, it inverts it. That's the material world. Whatever you input into it, it inverts it. We have to take it with some amount of... it doesn't mean that we put in negative thoughts and expect positive to come out. But the nature of the material even says that with whatever ambition an activity is done, the results are eventually disappointing. Right? And Arjuna is recognizing that. He says that all I see is Nimitani Vipratani. That I am entering in this battle with the hope of victory, with the hope of attaining the kingdom. But what I am seeing over here is Vipratani. What I am seeing over here is killing of my friends and families. And all the distress that is linked with that. So Krishna is called Keshav over here. One of the meanings of Keshav is killer of the Keshi demon. And the acharyas say that just like demons cause turmoil, similarly the lack of proper conviction, spiritual conviction, understanding causes turmoils in the heart and the mind of a person. So when Arjuna is addressing Krishna as Keshav, he is subtly indicating that you killed the demon by the name of Keshi. Kindly kill these demons of doubts that are coming within me. And of course, we will see that Krishna will do exactly that. Okay, so next verse. Okay, verse 31. Nacha shreyo na pushyami atva swajanamahave nakangshi vijayam Krishna nacha rajyam sukhani cha. I do not see how any good can come from killing my own kinsmen in this battle, nor can I, my dear Krishna, desire any subsequent victory, kingdom, or happiness. So, the previous set of verses, the theme of Arjun was compassion to the enemy. He was compassionate to killing them, considering the fact they are fathers and grandfathers, etc. He continues on the theme of compassion, but now the object of compassion is changed. Earlier on it was the others, now it is himself. So we see that in 6 verses, 31 to 36, Arjun gives the second reason of not wanting to fight, which is personal happiness. So he said, if I kill them, my own kinsmen, he said, if I kill them in the battle, then there is no happiness for me. So after the battle is finished, I emerge victorious, then everybody that I can enjoy my victory with, whether it is on the opposing side or my side, will already be dead. Right? And Srila Prabhupada writes in the purport that the fault in Arjun's thought over here is that he is putting his own self-interest above that of Krishna. So Krishna desired this battle to happen to eradicate the sinful people. Right? There's a backstory in Mahabharata where Mother Earth went to Krishna saying that I'm overburdened by these sinful people. Please come and help me. And Krishna says, okay, I will come. And that's why the whole Mahabharata war was orchestrated, to eliminate all these sinful people. That was the desire of Krishna. And Arjun was superseding that with his own desires. And Prabhupada says that is the fault of the material jivas, that they consider their own material desires to be higher than that of Krishna. Okay, let's move to the next set of verses, 32 to 35. Kim no rajen govinda kim bhoge jivitena va yesham marte kangshitam no rajam bhoga sukhani cha taim yavasthita yuddhe pranam staktva dhanani cha acharya pitrah putras tatheva cha pitamaha matula swashura putra shala sambhadinastata etanahantum ichchani gnatopi api madhusudana api trailokya rajasya heto kim no mahi krite nihatya dharta rashtrana ka priti janardana. O Govinda, of what avail to us are a kingdom, happiness, or even life itself, when all those for whom we may desire them are now arrayed on this battlefield? O Madhusudan, when teachers, fathers, sons, grandfathers, maternal uncles, father-in-laws, grandsons, brothers-in-law, and other relatives are ready to give up their lives and properties and are standing before me, why should I wish to kill them, even though they might otherwise kill me? O maintainer of all living entities, I am not prepared to fight with them, even in exchange for the 3 worlds, let alone this earth. What pleasure will we derive from killing the sons of Dharta Rashtra? So here we see Arjun specifically mentioning his inability to enjoy in the absence of his family members, his friends, people that he considers worthy of worship. And in order to make he uses exaggeration to make an effect. So he's saying that forget about this earth. Even if I get the three kingdoms, Bhur Bhavaswa, all the way to the heavenly kingdom, even then I would not consider this to be a worthy fight. And we see an interesting interplay of names over here. There's a theme in the way Arjuna is addressing Krishna. So he first calls Krishna Madhusudan. Right? Madhusudan means killer of the Madhu demon. And Arjuna is saying that you're famous for killing demons. If you think that these people are demoniac and need to be killed, then you go ahead and kill them. There's no need for me to engage in this ghastly battle. Right? And then he calls Krishna Govinda. Right? Govinda means one who gives pleasure to the senses. So Arjuna is saying that you're Govinda. You give pleasure to the senses of your devotees. And this battle is not pleasing to my senses. It's the opposite. So if you have to give pleasure to my senses, then make a situation in which I don't have to fight, but you take care of the killing of the oppositions. Right? And then he also addresses Krishna as Janardhan. So Janardhan has two meanings. Janardhan, one means maintainer of living entities. So Arjuna is saying, you're Janardhan, you're the maintainer of living entities. Why do you want me to kill? And Janardhan also means killer, depending on where the A goes in the Sanskrit, killer of living entities. Right? So Arjuna is saying you're Janardhana, that you are the cause of the, if you desire, the killing of living entities. Right? So the theme Arjuna is building here is that you're Madhusudan, you're Govinda, you're Janardhan, you're famous for killing the demons. So you go ahead and kill the Kauravas. And Prabhupada says that is the mood of a gross materialist, that they look upon Krishna as an order supplier. Like they look upon the relationship to the Lord as that, oh Lord, I need these things. I need a car, I need a house, I need a TV, I need more money. Kindly take care of it. Right? So it's the Prabhupada calls it the mood of an order supplier. And in this bewilderment, Arjuna is manifesting that mood. That I won't do anything, you take care of everything else. Right? So Krishna might say, if you don't fight, they'll kill you, because you're already in the battlefield. And then Arjuna says that I don't care right now. If they kill me, let it be. Because even if I kill them, I'm as good as dead. Because of all this anguish that is within me. So he's saying, so this verse indicates the depth of anguish within Arjuna. Out of that anguish, he is looking upon Krishna as an order supplier. He is also willing to give up his own life. So let's see the next verse, 36. Okay, verse 36. Papam eva shayadasman hatvaitena tatyana tasman naravayam bhantum dhartarashtran cha bandhavam swajanam hi katham hatva sukhina shyam madhava. Sin will overcome us if we slay such aggressors. Therefore, it is not proper for us to kill the sons of Dhritarashtra and our friends. What should we gain, O Krishna, the husband of the goddess of fortune, and how could we be happy by killing our own kinsmen? So this is the concluding statement of Arjuna's reasons of when he started saying in verse 31, Nacha Shreho Nupashyami. So when Arjuna is putting all his objections to killing, Krishna might say, but the scriptures say that killing one's aggressors is permitted. Right? And in Vasishtha Smriti and Manu Smriti also, it is said that 6 kinds of aggressors can be killed without any repercussions. The arsonist, one who poisons, one who attacks with weapons, the thief, the stealer of property, and the stealer of one's wife. So these are the 6 kind of aggressors that deserve to be punished. And in the Mahabharata, we see that at one point or the other, the Kauravas had committed this 6 kind of aggressions against the Pandavas. So Duryodhana had poisoned Bhim and tried to kill him, but Bhim did not die. Arson, like that pastime in Varnavrata, they built a lac house and burned it. The Pandavas were able to escape. Then theft, that they won the dice game by cheating. Then occupying others' land. So they had essentially usurped the whole kingdom of the Pandavas. Then kidnapping of wife. Draupadi had been kidnapped by Jayadratha, and Draupadi was effectively kidnapped and insulted in the Kuru assembly. And then attacking with weapons. The Kauravas in the past had attacked Pandavas, now they were again fighting with weapons. Right? So Krishna might say that based on Arthashastra, the Kauravas have committed these 6 kind of aggressions against you, so there will be no sins in doing what the scriptures tell you to do. Right? So Arjuna over here says that sin will overcome us if we slay such aggressors. Because Acharya said that Arjuna is not speaking from the platform of Arthashastra but from Dharmashastra. And what does Dharmashastra say? That it is noble to forgive one who has offended you. And since the Dharmashastra stands at a higher level than Arthashastra, the statements of Dharmashastra hold more weight. And we see that in the scriptures, that there may be statements that are mutually contradictory or apparently contradictory, but there is a nuance in them. There are some that are meant for a particular time, place, circumstance. There are some meant with the people with a certain propensity. The injunctions to a king may be different from the injunctions to the people in the praja, and sometimes they may be also contradictory. So, in response to this implicit statement by Krishna, that by virtue of the statements in Arthashastra that the 6 kind of aggressors can be killed without sin, Arjuna is making this point, but I am speaking from a higher platform, from Dharmashastra, that says that killing your teacher, killing your fathers and grandfathers is sinful and forgiving is noble. Right? And he addresses Krishna as Madhav, so Madhav is the husband of Lakshmi Devi, and Lakshmi Devi is auspiciousness. So he's saying that you're famous as Madhav, which means that you bring auspiciousness to your devotees. Why are you forcing me? Now Krishna so far has not forced him, but Arjuna is foreseeing it. He's saying, why are you going to foresee me to fight this battle when all that it will result is inauspiciousness? Okay. Next, 37-38. Okay. So reading from verse 37-38. Yadyapi na pashyanti lobhapata chetashaha kulakshya kritam dosham mitradrohe chapatakam katham nageyam asmabhi papadasma nivartitam kulakshya kritam dosham prapashyadbhir janardana. O Janardan, although these men, their hearts overtaken by greed, see no fault in killing one's family or quarreling with friends, why should we, who can see the crime in destroying a family, engage in these acts of sin? So far Arjuna has given 2 reasons not to fight. First was compassion, which was verses 28 to 30, and second was enjoyment, verses 31 to 36. Now beginning from this verse 37, for the next 6 verses until 42, Arjuna will give the third reason for not fighting, which is destruction of family tradition. Right? So Krishna may ask Arjun that I have already told you that the battle that you're fighting is justified. And you know that the people who are standing against you, so Arjun had already called them Durbuddher. He had already said that their mind is evil. So you know that they are evil. So what is the harm in fighting? So Arjun answers this implicit question. And the point that he makes here is that the consciousness of attaining an agreeable result alone should be the motivation, right? So the point that he's making is that an action is determined by the consciousness of the person. So being motivated by greed, the Kauravas are inclined to sinful acts. But because we, the Pandavas, are pious, we are not motivated by the same kind of greed. So there is no need for us to perform this sinful activities. Right? So it's very interesting how Arjuna is very expertly arguing, saying that I agree that those people are evil. But driven by those evil propensities, they have come here to fight. If I engage in fighting with them, what's the difference between me and them? I also become evil. Right? So in the Vedas it is said that dharma is said to be that action that is performed only out of affection and which does not lead to evil. So Prabhupada in this purport, he expands on this. So he said that a Kshatriya is not supposed to refuse a battle. It is Kshatriya dharma. The two things they're not supposed to refuse. One is gambling. I'm not sure why that is, but that's been mentioned that they're not supposed to back off from an invitation for gambling or from battle. So Arjun could not refuse to fight because he had been challenged by Duryodhana. Right? And in this connection, Arjun is saying that I'm willing to give up my Kshatriya dharma because I see the evil consequences of me following my dharma. Right? So he's relying on this tenet of the Vedas, that if an action results in undesirable consequences, then one should avoid performing such action. Right? So he's saying that even though it may be in the line of dharma, but it will result in undesirable consequences. So better for me to, if you think that I am not doing my dharma, then fine. Better for me to not do my dharma. Okay, moving on to the next. Verse 39. Kulaksha prananshanti kuladharma sanatana dharma nashta kulam kritashnam adharmo bhavatyuta. With the destruction of the dynasty, the eternal family tradition is vanquished, and thus the rest of the family becomes involved in irreligion. So with this verse, Arjuna is expanding on the sin of destroying family. So the elders of the family are the ones that impose the codes of religion. So they have the knowledge, they also have the conception. The youngsters in the family are more absorbed in enjoyment. But because they are obedient to the elders, they follow the religious principles, and when they grow old, they do the same to the next generation. So Arjuna is saying that in this battle, the elders will be killed. Innumerable warriors who occupy prominent positions in their respective families will be killed. When they are killed, then the family tradition, Sanatana, the dharmic tradition in the family will be destroyed. And when that is destroyed, irreligion will happen. Right? One of the things that the elders advise is the codes of morality. The youngsters might want to do, because they're driven more by passion, they might want to do irreligious acts. But the elders are counseling them. And when the elders are dead, then there's nobody to counsel them, so the family becomes involved in irreligion. Okay, next verse. Okay, verse 40. Adharma bhivat Krishna pradushyanti kulastriya strishu drushta suvashneya jayate varna sankaraha. When irreligion is prominent in the family, O Krishna, the women of the family become polluted, and from the degradation of womanhood, O descendant of Vrishni, comes unwanted progeny. So Arjuna is extending the influence of irreligious activities. First he was talking about the result of the absence of the elders. Now he's saying that this will also result in the pollution of women. Right? The point he's saying is that this cycle it will continue. That we see the irreligion done by the Kauravas. So we are prepared to do irreligion by killing them. And when the others see the irreligion that we have done, they will also think that is the right thing to do and continue to do irreligion. So that is why he says when irreligion is prominent in the family. So the family people will think that the great Pandavas under the guidance of Krishna did this irreligious act of killing their own elders and brothers and sisters. So it is okay to flout dharma. And he uses the example of women. That the women will become polluted and womanhood will become degraded. Prabhupada says that just like elders, women they form the backbone of the society. That when the women are moral and chaste, when they are good mothers and daughters and wives and sisters, then they hold the family together. And when this irreligion spreads to them, then the family values will also be weakened. Okay, let's go to the next verse 41. Sankaro narakayeva kulagnanan kulasya cha patanti pitruhaishama luptapindudaka kriya. An increase of unwanted population certainly causes hellish life, both for the family and for those who destroy the family tradition. The ancestors of such corrupt families fall down because the performance for offering them food and water are entirely stopped. So far, Arjun was talking about how the future will come in jeopardy. Because the elders will be killed, the women will follow the principles of irreligion, so the future generation will be jeopardized. Now, he talks about how even the past generation, those who have already died, will be put into trouble because of this tradition of offering pindas. Pindadaka. Pinda is basically offering to your ancestors, oblations. And in the Vedas, it is prescribed that the eldest son will, and there's a particular time of the year when Pindapaksh, when the elder son, they offer sanctified food to their departed ancestors. And essentially the departed ancestors survive on this food. So it's part of religious practice that is recommended in the Vedas. And Arjuna is saying that when the religious practices stop, then this offering of the oblations to the ancestors will also stop. And so while the ancestors are receiving these oblations, they reside in Pitraloka. So what he's saying is when that stops, they will fall from Pitraloka. So the destruction of religious practice will impact not only the future generations but also the past generations. Right? And then he says that I will be responsible for it. That the sins that others will commit, I will inherit the reactions to those sins because I am instigating that. Now one might think that in the current day and age, there is very few families that actually offer pindas. San Prabhupada says, true, most of the Vedic rituals have been lost, but then he says best is that if you can offer your devotion to your ancestors, simply by taking to bhakti, taking to the process of devotion, automatically the ancestors are liberated. Okay, let's move on to the next verse. Okay, verse 52. Doshere tukula gnanam varna sankar karaka utsadayante jati dharma kula dharmascha shashvata. By the evil deeds of those who destroy the family tradition and thus give rise to unwanted children, all kinds of community projects and family welfare activities are devastated. So we now see Arjun expanding the scope of the impact of the destruction of Varna. So he's talking about, initially he said that the future generations will be impacted. Then he said that the past generations will be impacted. Now he's saying the present will also be impacted. Because he said that with the destruction of the family tradition and unwanted children. So unwanted children are essentially a symptom of unrestricted mixing between the opposite sexes. And because of all this irreligion that happens, he says all kinds of community projects and family welfare activities are destroyed. Because for the society to operate in a harmonious way, then the various people in the society should cooperate with one another in terms of the varna and the ashram. So everybody has a certain duty to do according to their propensity. Some of them are administrators, some of them are teachers, some of them are merchants, some of them serve the others, some of them are celibate, some of them are householders. So by the confluence of these varnas and ashrams, harmony in the community is maintained. But what Arjuna is saying is that when the varnas and the ashrams are being destroyed, then essentially the fabric, the backbone of the community is being destroyed. Right? So as a summary, he's saying that in this line of reasoning, he's saying because of the war, elders will be killed. Because the killing of the elders, the family tradition of executing prescribed activities will cease. Women will be polluted. They will be unwanted or mixed progeny who will not be trained in the Vedas, which means that the varnas are destroyed and the ashrams will also be destroyed. So the offering to the ancestors will cease and they will fall down. The future generations will be put at risk and the current society will be devastated. So we see Arjun making here very, very strong arguments against the battle. Next verse. Okay. Verse 43. Utsan kula dharma nam manushyanam janardana narake nityam vaso bhavatitya nushrama. O Krishna, maintainer of the people, I have heard by disciplic succession that those whose family traditions are destroyed dwell always in hell. So Arjun in 3 verses now will talk about the 4th reason for not wanting to fight, which is fear of sinful reactions. Right? He talked about compassion, he talked about destruction of the family tradition, he talked about enjoyment. Now he talks about the fourth reason, which is fear of sinful reactions. Right? So in the past 6 verses, Arjuna projected a very gloomy picture based on the destruction of family. Now he connects it by saying that I will be the cause of this Varna Sankar, this destruction of family values. And that's a sin. And because of that sin, I will be forced to reside in hell. Right? And Krishna might say to Arjuna that, but that's your own speculation. And Arjuna says, no, I have heard by disciplic succession, which means that parampara. Now he's bringing forth the authorities of the preceding acharyas. He's saying, not just me, but I have heard this from my teachers, and they have heard from their teachers, and this is said in the Vedas. So Prabhupada glorifies the statement, saying that is the way to receive real knowledge. And one should not speculate. One should not say, I feel, I think, and I consider this to be, because it has no value. Essentially, all the statements that you make are limited by your own fallibility. So, just like you are thinking, somebody else is thinking something else, and there may be millions of thoughts. So, one is as good or as bad as another. But what carries value is when it is coming through a bona fide disciplic succession. Disciplic succession, as we'll read in the 4th chapter, emanates from Krishna himself, who is the perfect source. And then it comes through the transparent media of Guru and disciple. So Arjuna is now taking shelter of that, saying that by an authoritative parampara I have heard that one who destroys family tradition will always live in hell. And obviously he says, I have no desire to live in hell. Next verse. Verse 44. Ahobat mahat papam kartum yavasthita vayam yadraj sukhalobena hantum swajanamudhyataha. Alas, how strange it is that we are preparing to commit greatly sinful acts. Driven by the desire to enjoy royal happiness, we are intent on killing our own kinsmen. So Arjuna is here trying to balance the cause and effect, right? The previous verse he spoke about the effect, that destruction of the past, present and future of mankind. Now he brings the cause, that Raj Sukha Lobhena. That what is it that is going to cause these devastating effects? Raj Sukha Lobhena, the greed to enjoy royal happiness. So the contrast is stark. He's saying that just driven by my greed to enjoy royal happiness, I am prepared to sacrifice the past, present and future happiness of society. Right? Baldev Vidyabhushan says that Arjuna in this verse is saying that even thinking about it is a sin, because Arjuna hasn't yet killed anybody. Right? But Arjuna is making this point so forcibly, so he's conveying that even thinking about engaging in this battle is sinful. Forget about actually engaging in this battle. Okay. Next verse. Verse 55. Okay. Verse 45. Yadi mama pratikaram shastram shastrapanya dhartara sharne hanyas tanme kshemataram bhavet. Better for me if the sons of Dhritarashtra, weapons in hand, were to kill me unarmed and unresisting on the battlefield. So Krishna might say that fine, you are giving all these reasons not to fight, don't fight. But standing against you, the Kauravas and Bhishma and Drona, they are standing with their weapons in hand. They are inclined to fight. They will fight and kill you. So Arjuna states that in this verse that fine, let them kill me. Because the other alternative is for me to incur the sinful reaction of the destruction of the the principles of dharma. So Arjuna is willing to forego his rights as a Kshatriya. He is willing to overlook the lack of morality in his opponents. He is willing to give up his very life rather than fight and incur sinful reactions. Right? And Arjun says that this is my prayashchit, this is my repentance. That I have come here on this battlefield, I have created this condition in which battle is inevitable, without thinking of the consequences. But now I am thinking of the consequences. So my repentance for creating this situation is that let them kill me unarmed and unresisting. The Prabhupada says all these symptoms are due to the soft-heartedness of Arjuna, resulting from his being a great devotee of the Lord. Right? So sometimes the qualities are glorified as being devotional qualities, sometimes they're being condemned as being qualities of material weakness. And we see that interplay because we see that in Arjuna also. At one point he is a great devotee, but he is also allowing himself to be illusioned. So we see that interplay of qualities that Prabhupada calls out. Okay, let's move on to the last verse of the chapter now. So verse 46, Sanjaya vacha eva muktva arjuna sankhe ratopastupavishad visarja cha sa sharam chapam shoka samignamansaha. Sanjay said, Arjun, having thus spoken on the battlefield, cast aside his bow and arrows and sat down on the chariot, his mind overwhelmed with grief. So Dhritarashtra, hearing all this that is happening, turns to Sanjay and says, what happens now? So now Sanjay says that Arjun, overwhelmed with grief, he cast aside his bow and arrows and sat down on the chariot. Right? So this is the final statement by Arjun. Even though he doesn't speak, but his actions speak louder than his words. So he cast around his bow and arrows, meaning that I have no desire to fight. And previously he was standing up on the chariot with determination to engage in battle. Now in despair he sits down. So this also gives us a clue into the fifth and the last reason of Arjun not wanting to fight, which is indecisiveness. So generally when people are determined, they take a stance. But when people are indecisive, then they leave that stance. So Arjun, in earlier on in decisiveness, he was standing with his bow and arrow in hand, saying, on to battle. But now, with indecisiveness overpowering him, he lets go of his bow and arrow and he sits down in despair. So the fifth reason of indecisiveness will be expanded in the next chapter. So this brings us to the end of the first chapter, which is divided into two parts. The first part is the setting of the scene, in which we see the various auspicious signs of victories on the side of the Pandavas. We see the diplomacy of Duryodhana. We see the evil nature of Dhritarashtra. And then in the second part is a speech by Arjun, in which he talks about the various reasons why he thinks that this battle is not the right thing to do, right? And he gives 5 reasons. He talks about compassion, he talks about enjoyment, he talks about fear of sinful reaction, he talks about the destruction of family tradition, and the last reason is that of indecisiveness. So we will end over here. Next time we will start with the second chapter. Thank you very much. Hare Krishna. All glories to Srila Prabhupada.